players?
Yes, I'm trying to think of when the last time we actually talked, but yeah, I've talked to everyone, and I've met with a couple more guys just because we've had more time. So it's been nice, and then hopefully at Twins Fest we'll get the entire group at some point, or who's ever there, just be able to spend some time with them.
What's kind of your process for new eyes on the team when you're evaluating the guys what we want to see next spring?
In terms of the conversations, they're pretty generic in terms of just introducing, getting to know. I think the one thing that I've learned over time is once you want to introduce yourself to guys, but you also don't. I mean, it's their off season, and not only are they talking to me, but the position player group are talking to KB, and they're talking to Mark, and they're talking to Rabs. Most of them already know Toby on the pitching side. They're talking to Pete. They're talking to Troy. You don't want to. It doesn't want to be a situation where you're like, all right, every day someone's calling you. Like, it's their off season. I realize I'm excited because I wasn't doing anything for 4 months, but they were doing things. So I think the process there is generally just introduction, giving them the opportunity to ask questions. I think the one thing I have told them is, like, if you have anything, if you think anything, shoot me a text, give me a call, and then just giving them a little bit of basic outline of what our expectations are going to be. But a lot of it's been just getting feedback from them on, what their experience was the last couple of years.
In particular was really excited to get to talk to you and kind of get what's your read on when you look at what he is capable of and he's shown the last year or two what he can be going forward, and maybe what kind of a role you and your staff can have in unlocking him, getting him to be that guy?
Yeah, I think Royce was really important. I mean, number one, we had some really good barbecue. I don't know if you guys talked to him, but he took care of me there. We had some great barbecue. I think in Royce's case, I didn't really have a relationship with him before because he had just been drafted. He got hurt during spring training while I was here. So I wanted to make sure that, I gave an introduction. He's so important to us because he's so talented. He's been on and off the field with injuries. I wanted to make sure that, we talked about how he was taking care of his body. I was able to look him face to face and tell him what I thought, about him and how much that I believed in him. I just really felt that was important, just to, have a conversation. He's a young kid that has a chance to be a really good player for a long time. And then the second part is just making sure he was taking care of himself. Wanted to get eyes on him and see how he looked. And then his answers were so good. I mean, it was almost like he got away for a couple weeks. He started to work out a little bit, and, he's got a fresh outlook on 2026. Right. Well, I think we've publicly said, the guys that everybody's questioning if they're going to be here, that they're going to be here. I mean, I think Derek said that last week. The guys that, in terms of Joe or Byron or Pablo, like, they're going to be here. So I think when I had the conversations with them, it was more like, hey, I'm planning on you being here, and I want you to be part of this, and we're going to build. I mean, those are three guys important to us, just like, Royce was important to us. I think it was important for them to hear that from me. And then the second part of that, Dan, I think in the offseason, there's always uncertainty because the fact that, we have to rebuild an entire bullpen. There's guys we have to add to. So I don't think it's unique to this, and I don't think it's unique to the Minnesota Twins, and I also don't think it's unique to, me, because we've been in situations, every manager's in a situation where, like, you're going to add 4 or 5 guys to your team. There's going to be guys that we bring on in our eyes that people are going to be like, why is this guy here? And then he ends up being your best pitcher or player for a month. So I think the uncertainty there is like that until you get to spring training because you don't know who your group is. But I think the main component of that is we've come out publicly and said, hey, we expect those 3 guys to be part of our club, and that's the way that I dealt with it from the day I got the job.
Did you get to meet Buck in person?
Buck and I were able to have dinner together, and it was great. It was nice. It was like seeing an old friend, I mean, I had only seen him across the field, but I think the thing that impressed me the most about my time with Buck is just how much he's matured, honestly, that was 6 years ago. And, I see him across the field. I see him in spring training, to give him a hug. But, like, when he walked in the restaurant, the presence that he has, like, that's a superstar, man. That's an all-star player. That's a guy that won a Silver Slugger. Like, not that he wasn't that then, but that was what kind of we all expected he was going to be, but the presence that he has, it was really cool to see, man. I got goosebumps when he walked in because, like, this is a guy. This is a Minnesota Twin. This is what you build around and do. And the fact that he wants to do that and we want him to do that, it was, like, kind of special. It was like seeing one of your kids, like, after they came home from college and you're like, damn, that's what it looks like. Yeah, it was awesome. No, we met in Jacksonville. So we kind of met halfway in between. I give credit to him because he met me halfway. So I just said, hey, do you want to go Jacksonville? Do you want to go Atlanta? Do you want to go to Savannah? So we met in Jacksonville and had dinner.
You guys have a lot of interesting major league and verge of major league pitchers. You've got 5 rotation spots. Have you started having those conversations with Pete about how you track those guys? You need to fill a bullpen somehow. Presumably some of those guys will come from potential starters. Have you started looking at how you apportion this mass of pitchers you have?
Yeah, I would say on a very macro level, yes. To be finite, no. I mean, I think the one thing, and maybe this is the superstitious part of me, is you can never have enough pitching, you can never have enough starting pitching. So I don't even want to talk about the changing of roles and what we're going to do because you want to get through spring training healthy. And the last thing you want to do is get ahead of yourself and think like, hey, we're going to adjust and do this. So the fact that we have, a surplus of starting pitching or starting pitching options is something that I'm fine with. And then we work from there. Now, to say in my head, at times I don't play around with it. Yeah. But I think the other thing that's different is I personally have to get eyes on these guys and watch them throw and be able to do those things. But I feel we're in a really good spot because we have that much pitching.
Would you anticipate that part of what you do with the bullpen does come from those however many starters?
I think there's a potential that could happen. I don't want to lock ourselves in to say that we are doing that because it may be a situation that, we send a guy down because we want him to stay as a starting, your schedule depends on that. But to say like we're adverse to that, no. But I think that's going to be an individual basis.
You said last week, the announcement came out that you had the 3 core guys coming back. Did you know that was the plan when you took on the job, or was that something that you were kind of waiting to see whether or not that was going to be the case? Was there a process to get to that?
No, I think there's always a process to get to everything, but my assumption when I took the job was those 3 guys were going to be part of our team.
How do you guys get back? I mean, you've got this core group that maybe projects the need to win this that's pretty relevant in this division. I mean, how do you see rounding out this roster?
Our young players have to continue to develop. I think that's the biggest thing. And then obviously we have to build out our bullpen. Because there's so many games won or lost in a bullpen, especially during the regular season. And I think we've talked about this. I mean, there's teams that go out and spend a ton of money on their bullpen and then use their starters as bullpen. So building out our bullpen is going to be extremely important. I think that's going to be a step that we're going to need to take to continue to get better. And then our young position player group, we got to figure out ways for them to get better. For me to say specifically what that is right now, that's hard because I don't know this group. I think I'll have a better answer of that. I better have a better answer to that by about March 25th.
With Luke Keishel, have you guys talked anything about where he'll play defensively?
Yeah, defensively, I think we're still having those conversations. We love the flexibility. The main thing right now is just to make sure that the arm is in a good spot. But the fact that he has flexibility to move around the diamond is something that's really important for us. But I don't think we've locked in specifically of what we're thinking.
You see any places on the roster where you'd like to see the team add some offense?
Well, I think we have some places we can add. I think we have multiple places we have the opportunity to add. And when I say that, it's not because we don't like the group we have, but it's a situation of how the market's going to play out. And I think the longer you do this job, you want to make sure you don't pigeonhole, say, hey, we need something at X position, and then the market doesn't bear itself that way. I think going back to Bobby's question, the fact that we have guys that have flexibility to play in different positions, then we can be a little more finite in terms of how we add to our club.
Do you think you currently have internal options beyond Clemens to play first base? Is for something like taking one of those outfield DH guys and maybe giving him a look at first base if you want to add somebody possible option?
Yeah, so far we have not talked about that, and that's not to say that we won't talk about that. I think as we get through the winter meetings and we kind of see how the market bears out and what's being available, the first base market is a little bit fickle this year. I think as we all know, you got, the guy at the top and then you kind of work off that. So I think we will have to make a determination probably in the next couple weeks. And the reason why you have to make that determination, because then you're asking a guy to start adjusting positions, taking ground balls. You go into the fact of, all right, it changed your training program because now you're bending over. How does it affect your back, your hamstrings? All those things come into play. I think we're going to probably see how the market bears out a little bit and then make a decision on that.
I think it's important to have a few veteran relievers to sort of build around your bullpen, maybe from outside the organization. Are you comfortable building up 8 guys on the fly?
I think we need to build the best bullpen possible. Now, if we add veteran guys to that mix, I think it's important. I think one of the things that was really important to me is the guy that's sitting down there as the bullpen coach is a veteran guy in terms of LaTroy. And that was extremely important to me because a good majority of that bullpen's probably going to be young. It could be transition, like we're talking about. So that's probably, or that's not probably why, that's why LaTroy was the first hire, because wanted to make sure we locked in someone that sat down there that's able to have those conversations to be able to educate and grow that group. Because we may get in a situation, depending on how it shakes out, that we have 6 young guys down there. So I want someone sitting down there that has the ability to have those conversations. Ultimately, you want to build the best bullpen with the best arms in the widest variety of looks as possible.
What you learned in like your time in Pittsburgh about developing young hitters, feels like around the game, and obviously it's harder to hit than ever, but trying to get young guys to have more success.
What did I learn? I learned that AAA does not prepare you for the big leagues. I think that's the biggest thing I learned. I mean, I think you have as good a chance getting as many traject at bats. And if you guys are familiar with the traject machine, like where you're seeing actual major league pitching, it's just the automated strike zone in AAA, the quality of pitching, the velocity is just not the same. It's why we're seeing as an industry so many young players come to the big leagues and struggle. They just don't hit. The pitching is just too good here, and the pitching they're facing in AAA is not there. Now, on the flip side of that, I'm very curious now the fact that we have the challenge system, how that's going to affect that on the major league side, and something that we're going to have to talk about. But just continuing to get reps. As an industry, we're seeing more young players fail and go back to the minor leagues, and then you guys are able to write articles about, like, this guy's got 1,100 OPS in AAA and he comes to the biggest. And this is not specific to, to the Pirates in that question or to the Twins. It's throughout the industry that guys are struggling. I think it's something that we are continuing to look at is how we can get better at. I wish I had a really good answer for you, but it's just the fact that the distance between the talent in AAA and the big leagues is probably the greatest it's ever been.
Derek, if a lot of guys are going back to AAA and there's not a lot that you can really learn in big league level, how does it help a guy going back to AAA?
Sometimes it just helps them mentally. I mean, obviously, you get your teeth kicked in enough times. Sometimes you need a reset and you need to refresh. There are mechanical adjustments you can make, and I think depending on the organization and where they're at, they have to make that decision of, does this individual stay in the big leagues and try to figure it out, or do you send him down and give him a little bit of confidence?
You mentioned the challenge system. What are your early thoughts on strategizing when you use it?
My early thought, and this is initial, and I don't know if I should say this, I don't think the pitcher should ever challenge.
You're not the first person.
Yeah, I think pitchers think everything is a strike. So I think there's going to be a strategy that's probably going to piss off some pitchers, but I think there's a strategy to it. We have talked about it a ton. I don't know if anybody has an idea. I guarantee you're going to see a lot of copycat. You're going to see every organization watching other organizations and how they attack it. And this is one of those things that you're not going to get a really good barometer in spring training because it doesn't really matter in spring training. I think we're going to have to make it matter a little bit in spring training. I think how we train it in spring training, whether it's using the traject, whether it's using bullpen situations to be able to educate your group of what's a strike and what's not a strike. And on the flip side of it is, like, catchers are really good now, and sometimes they fool everyone. So there's that fine line. I do think in the first month and a half, teams that figure it out are definitely going to have an advantage. I know he can catch. There's some power in there. It's been sporadic playing time. He's bounced around, but I do like his ability to catch the baseball. I have not talked to any of those guys. I know Walker. I was just in Wilmington and I saw Jeffers, and he was at Walker's honeymoon, or he was at his wedding the day before. So, you know, I'm hoping that I get an opportunity with those guys, because those guys are going to be a big part of what we're doing moving forward.
Like, how do you pick where you're going to visit with a few more guys? I mean, is that something?
Well, there were guys that I wanted to hit, and I wanted to talk to Ryan, but my sister-in-law lives there, and we went there for Thanksgiving. So, see, my wife was like, "Hey, I think we're going to go to Wilmington," and instead of being like, "Nah," I was like, "Okay, that's good," but I am going to go spend a morning with our catcher. So, but yeah, I think it was hitting on the key guys of like who I wanted to see, who I wanted to talk to, and again, like you also have to make sure you respect guys' off seasons. I've seen Buck, Royce, Jeffers. I didn't see Pablo. I'll see Pablo probably in the next month because Pablo was out of the country. I'm trying to think of who else I saw. And then Joe, I was going to go see Joe, but he had a baby, so I didn't go. Yeah, the day I was going to go see Joe, he was like, "Claire's due tomorrow." I was like, "Yeah, I don't think I'm going to." So, but I have talked to him numerous times. So, you know, it's one of those things that like, this is surprising, but baseball players have lives outside of like what goes on, and they had other things going on. So wanted to be respectful of that.